his alleged mistresses watching this develop live and raw roughly around the 8 o'clock hour. I want to switch gears and bring in Dr. Andrea Pennington. She joins us right now via webcam. She is a doctor that has served as a medical director and a spokesperson for the Discovery Health channel and Discovery Health Online. She also has a radio show that talks about sexual health, libido, and how to recognize sexual addiction. Dr. Pennington, thanks so much for joining us. We certainly do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
I want to get your initial reaction to what Tiger Woods had to say during this basically 14-minute speech.
Well, my initial reaction was hats off to him for being very upfront and very honest, taking full responsibility for his, as he calls it, irresponsible behavior. I think it was interesting that he admits that being a celebrity and having a lot of money gave him a lot of access to very tempting situations, and he used poor judgment.
He talked about just getting out of what he called 45 days of inpatient therapy. He says it's his first steps in the right direction. Can you talk about this type of therapy for sex addiction? What is it like?
Well, the therapy for sex addiction at centers like that at the Pine Grove Gentle Path is very similar to what an alcoholic or someone dealing with drug addiction. It's based on the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it is a secluded, very nurturing environment where someone can explore deep-seated issues that may correspond to this current event. It may even dig up some of the past issues, things from one's childhood, perhaps trauma. I'm not suggesting that in Tiger's case, but it really is an opportunity for a person to look very deeply into their own psychological issues and past, to understand their present behavior, to understand their triggers. And if this is indeed a sexual addiction, he's going to have to learn strategies for dealing with that going forward, because you can stop drinking alcohol and stop doing drugs, but if for most adults in a committed married relationship, you are going to continue to have sex.
That brings my question. If you're an alcoholic and you go to therapy to not become an alcoholic, you're still always an alcoholic. You just work at really not taking part in alcohol. If you're if you have an addiction to sex and you're still married and you're still obviously having sex with your wife, how difficult is it to really control that addiction?
Well, if it is indeed a sex addiction, it is very challenging. And it's challenging because, as he pointed out, there are always going to be those temptations, those things that will start to stimulate that part in the brain that inspires a person to take action. So in a case like this, it would be very, very critical that he continue ongoing therapy. Attending 12-step meetings is a big part of that. Having a sponsor, having a confidant, someone that he can talk through these issues. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to hear all of the conference, so I don't know if he actually admitted to being a sex addict, but that's a big component of the therapeutic process.
He did talk a little bit about his own religious background, Buddhism, and how he had really applied that in his younger life and swayed away from that in his adult life, but getting back to it now, it really teaches them to really look inward for self-fulfillment and not necessarily outward, and that's what he says he might have been doing during the course of these last few years. Will a thing like religion help, beliefs help in overcoming this addiction?
Most definitely. If you are familiar with the 12 steps, one is asked to call on a higher power, and religion and faith don't necessarily have to be perfectly tied in there, but because he has had a background in Buddhism, this will be a wonderful opportunity for him to dig into those spiritual roots and find the support, the inspiration, the forgiveness for himself, and the understanding that he's going to need to move forward in his life. It's not going to be an easy road ahead for him.
have a question about the public out there. Their perception of Tiger Woods, obviously, as a celebrity, they want to know more. They want to know everything about the situation, certainly about the process of trying to overcome it. Is it good for him to have conversations publicly about this, or is this something he has to handle by himself with his family?
I think he brought it up, and he said, look, the atonement begins now, and these are private conversations. The conversations he needs to be having are certainly with his wife, at some point in the future, probably with his children, and most definitely with a therapist or a therapeutic community. I don't think it's appropriate at this early stage to be talking with the public or reporters about what he's been going through. You know, for most addicts, there's a lot to sort out. And, you know, for men who admit to being sex addicts, there is often a great deal of ambivalence, because we know that sex is normal, and, you know, when you get to be a celebrity and you have the opportunity for having a lot of sex thrown at you, it seems very acceptable. So there's very often an internal struggle, if you will.
Well, it sounds as if he might be in the right direction. Dr. Andrea Pennington, thanks so much for joining us via webcam. We certainly do appreciate it. All right, folks, that's Dr. Andrea Pennington. Once again, a doctor who has a radio show that talks a lot about sexual health, libido, how to recognize your sexual addiction, helping us out with our coverage of Tiger Woods. We certainly want to know what you think about this. There's certainly a talker out there. Why don't you go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/newsraw or facebook.com/Macalo. You can also find us on Twitter, twitter.com/Macalo. Tell us what you think of what he had to say. Was it enough for you? Do you think he's gone far enough, or do you think he has to say more publicly? Tell us what you think. We'll share it with folks here throughout the day. I'm Macalo Medina. You've been watching us here on Digital 4.2, streaming over on NBCLA.com. This is News Raw, news as it happens.